teaching and assessment of literary studies. So I have prepared 10 questions for us to test your competency in this course. So let us start, shall we? So number 1, allow me to read. In regards to reading competencies under the grade 7 curriculum for literature, which of the following refers to the period wherein certain authors create works that seem to imitate the established Western style in writing? Okay. Letter A, period of apprenticeship. B, period of emergence. C, period of enlightenment. And D, contemporary period. So take note that what's being asked is the period wherein the authors or the literary works seem to imitate American or European style in writing. Okay, let's check. The correct answer is letter A, period of apprenticeship. Why is that? Okay, so before we discuss the correct answer, let's try to delve into these 3 distractors, B, C, and D. So first, period of emergence is a counterpart, or rather the opposite, of period of apprenticeship, because this period is characterized wherein Filipinos or Filipino authors have started to explore these written styles and create works that are authentically Filipino in nature, subjects of social issues that only Filipinos would reflect or emphasize upon. Okay. Let us see, we have period of enlightenment. This period refers to 1870s propaganda movement wherein reformists like Rizal and Marcelo H. Belcoral tried to write articles, literary works that tries to liberate the Philippines from the abusive occupation of the Spanish. Lastly, we have contemporary period. Contemporary period refers to the period of literary works produced after the World War II or from the World War II to the present. So most of these works are characterized of subjects of personal experience and social commentary. Okay. Period of apprenticeship was famous for their works that seem to resemble to the established American and English Romanticist movements, because these authors have studied in America and Europe, have adopted the styles and imitated them in their writing. Okay. Question number 2. In teaching literary poems, in teaching and integrating literary poems for mapping, which of the following type of narrative poems is the best choice for musical reference? Letter A, we have allegory. B, ballad. C, haiku. And letter D, epic. So take note that the poetry is being integrated for the mappa subject, which I think is the most appropriate for this subject. Okay, let's check your answers. Correct answer is letter B. Why is that? In understanding poetry, we must take note that there are 3 classifications, that is narrative, lyric, and dramatic poetry. In narrative poetry, we have allegory and ballad. Let's discuss allegory first. Allegory is the type of poetry that is composed to specifically express an extended metaphor of social issues, historical events, or even existing literary works. Okay? It is a bit similar to a parody, but in this form, in written form, allegory is in poetic form, in poetry. Okay. B, ballad is a poem that is intended to be sung. Okay. So in this case, this is the best choice for the multi subject, the music subject. Let us see, haiku is a lyric poem because it is structured and its subject is mostly composed of nature. Okay. D, on the other hand, is another narrative poem which discusses the heroic story or the legend of the overpowered or demigods or a hero. Okay. Let's have number 3. Teacher Renz wants to use poems to supplement the tale of Narcissus Flower. Okay, Narcissus Flower, Greek literature, under his mythology and folklore subject. He specifically wants to focus on Narcissus' inner ploys to entice the students' insights on beauty and empathy towards the gorgeous boy. So, which of the following poems should Teacher Renz use? A. Elegy. B. Monologue. C. Sonnet. D. Soliloquy. Take note that the key here, this question is the word inner ploys. So again, you have only 5 seconds to guess. Okay. Let's check your answer. The correct answer is soliloquy. Why is that? Letter A, elegy is a song, rather a poem to honor the dead. Okay, it's delivered during funerals or memorial services that honor the passing of our loved ones or friends that are dear to us. Okay. Letter B, monologue, might be confused with soliloquy because monologue is delivered by one character in the story to another character, or it can also be delivered to the audience themselves. So it's like a speech delivered by the character in the story that may be intended for the audience or the readers. C. Sonnet is another lyric poem which is popularized by Shakespeare. This is a poem which composed of iambic pentameter structure and a specific rhyme scheme, if you're familiar with that. A, B, A, C, D, C, right here. Okay. So the correct answer is soliloquy because Teacher Renz wants to focus on Narcissus' inner ploys, meaning soliloquy as a tool to express Narcissus' inner battles or inner conversations with themselves, so that the students can empathize on him, on his feeling, being someone blessed with beauty, right? Okay. Question number 4. Teacher Isa, students are innately non-readers, so they're students that don't really like to read. It's very concerning. Which of the following assessment strategies is the most effective to maintain fruitful learning from literature subjects? So as teachers, this is always the concern for us, right? If your students are not reading or they don't like reading at all, what will they do? So letter A, role play. B, journaling. C, structured essay forms. And D, read aloud sessions. Okay. 5 seconds to guess. Take note, it should be the most effective so that your student have or will acquire fruitful learning from the literary text reviews. Okay? Sure. Correct answer is C, structured essay prompts. So why is that the correct answer? Before that, let's try to look at the other structures. A, role play is very common wherein students try to act out a certain scene through playing as the characters in the story. It might not be effective because role-playing might not express, it might not demonstrate the full essence or the full potential of the text in teaching desired competencies. So role-play may teach values, but it may not teach the very essence of the written text. While it is helpful for allowing the student to learn values or try to reflect on the characters that they have read about, it may not be the best in this context for fruitful acquisition or learning of the text itself, the literary works. Letter D, we have journaling, wherein you may assign written reflective journals or journals rather, which will allow your students to write their own inputs from your questions that is derived from the literary text. So usually this task is to create reflective learning. Try to entice what the student think, feel, or what does the student learn from literature subjects. This may appear mostly as subjective because you're trying to assess how the students feel or how the students think towards their own perspective of the story. And we have read aloud sessions, which is usually done when you are directly teaching the literary text in the specific or the same day that you are introducing the lesson concept. So in this scenario, read aloud sessions might not be the best because we have mentioned that teacher as students doesn't like reading at all. So we have left with structured essay prompts. So it is discussed in this course that in order for literature-based lessons to be effective, the teacher must create or design formative assessments with specific criteria that you will allow your students to create inputs, which in return you can provide this specific feedback that will create the most effective assessment tool, not just for telling them or allowing them to express what they think, but to create an environment for deep understanding of the text through your specific criteria. Take note, it must be specific, not just the common question prompts from journals, okay? You should set specific criteria for the formative assessments and for the written accounts, okay? Question number 5. In reading the story, The Bread of Salt, Teacher Allen asked students what they think of the resemblance of the confection, which was, of course, mentioned in the story, whole egg yolks that was dipped in honey and peppermint, to a modern dessert. So basically, Teacher Allen is trying to ask his students, what kind of dessert, what dessert do you remember, or what dessert comes to your mind when you read this phrase that is mentioned in the story? What are, does it have similar descriptions from a dessert that we are consuming in this modern day? Does it remind you of something sweet dessert, right? So what level of reading comprehension question did he use? We have letter A, affective, B, applied, C, interpretive, D, lexical. Okay. The correct answer is interpretive. It should be interpretive, not interpretative. Okay. So in this context, the level of comprehension we used was interpretive because students were asked what is the meaning of this phrase, because it's not directly stated in the story what specific dessert this is, because in the perspective of the main character, he was just expressing, or he was just writing, describing what he sees on the foods or the meals that has been prepared for the celebration. Okay, take note here that the main character of the Bread of Salt is a boy born in a normal family, rather a poor family. So he doesn't know what is the specific name for that dessert. He's only describing what he sees, right? So affective is not the correct answer. It's incorrect because it does not mention any social script that may infer for moral development or motive of the character. It is not also in the level or in the applied level because we are not asking questions that involves logical reasoning, okay? And finally, it's not lexical because we're not trying to distinguish or determine the specific meaning of terms that are literally stated in the story. Okay? The difference between the lexical and interpretive level is lexical meanings are details that can be spotted in the story, while interpretive level of comprehension is when you ask questions that are not mentioned or explicitly stated in the story. Okay. Question number 6. Teacher Sally asked her students about how they feel on Genji's multiple love interests in the tale of Genji. and its implications to modern social norms. What level of reading comprehension question we should use? Take note that teacher Sally is trying to associate the fact that Genji has multiple love interests and its implications to modern social norms. So we all know that the modern society is quite sensitive when it comes to these topics. Okay. Again, choices are A. Affective, B. Applied, C. Interpretive, and D. Lexical. So which do you think is the correct answer? Try to guess. Okay, let's check. So the correct answer is letter A. Affective. Why affective? In this scenario, in this context, teacher Sally wants her students to try to make connections on the social scripts that are portrayed in the context of the tale of Genji. In the story, Genji has or had a lot of multiple love interests due to the social context, the historical context that surround the universe of the story. So in the context of the setting of the story, Prince Genji has the legal right to take on multiple mistresses because he is the prince, right? Okay. Letter B, applied reading comprehension is incorrect because this refers to, again, an application of logical reason, trying to ask the students of the facts that are present in the story, which cannot be judged right or as wrong, because what you're testing is their moral reasoning from the facts that are present in the story. C, interpretive, again, is incorrect because we're not trying to determine the meaning of certain concepts or unfamiliar terms in the story, as well as D, lexical, because we're not trying to find the meaning of specific words. What's being asked rather is the social scripts in the story wherein Genji's multiple love interests. Okay? Number 7. Teacher Ray wants to focus on the kennings observed in the Old English translation of Beowulf. Which level of comprehension question should he consider to use? Again, we have A, affective, B, applied, C, interpretive, D, lexical. So which do you think is the correct answer? Okay, let's check. So the correct answer is letter D, lexical. So before we discuss the following choices, let us first determine what kennings are. If you could still remember, kennings are specific terms or that is composed of two words that refer to a new term. So basically a kenning is a literary device used by it's present in the Old English, wherein words such as whale plus road is being combined in one word to refer to another word, which is the ocean or the sea. So the correct answer is lexical because in this context, we're trying to understand or determine the meaning of these kennings based on the descriptions of the lines of this Germanic epic poem. So in the context, Whale Road describe where Beowulf and his companions have passed through to reach the kingdom, which is ravaged by Grendel. In the lines of the poem would help you determine that Whale Road refers to ocean because a whale is a large underwater animal. So we may argue that the whale and the road here refers to the whale's passageways. So Whale Road may refer to the ocean because this is the passage for the ships, the whales as well. Again, it's not effective because we do not mention the social grips. It's not applied because we do not try to ask the moral reasoning from the students. C is not also interpretive because we're not trying to determine or ask facts that had already been what we're going to ask the students in the scenario is specific terms, which is the kennings, a literary device. Okay. Chapter 8, question 8. In discussing the finale of the novel, The Giver, wherein Jonas slid down slope of snow, carrying Gabriel from the freezing peak of the mountain, teacher Riza asked her students what they think of the final scene and logically reason out their arguments on the symbolism of the ending. So, what level of reading comprehension question is used? Again, we have affective, applied, interpretive, and literal. Okay. So let's check. The answer is applied. So again, in this scenario, if you remember the ending of The Giver, it was mentioned that when Jonas and Gabriel have escaped from the city because he doesn't want Gabriel to be released, right? The last scene described that they climbed the freezing peak of the mountain. Take note that normal human beings will not survive at such cold, such low temperatures. So, what teacher Risa wants to ask if the students have observed the symbolism in the final scene. Like, what do they think of the event? Do you think Jonas and Gabriel survive? Why or why not? Do you think that this event is a symbolist or creative expression of peaceful ending, which is death itself? Because we all know that Jonas in the story has the ability to receive memories, and the memory of sliding down the slope is one of his favorite memories that he have received from the giver. Okay? So definitely in this question, the correct answer is applied because students are asked to logically reason out their insights based on the details, based on how they cite the events that have occurred in the story, which means what the answers. Affective, interpretive, and literal are all incorrect because they do not, or they were not that in answering these questions. Interpretive refers to, again, inferring the facts that have been explicitly stated. Literal is for the details that can be found in the text. Affective is for social scripts. Question 9. When teacher Hazel assigned the reading of George Orwell's Animal Farm to her students, she decided to discuss text focusing on the social, political, and moral aspects of the novel. Which of the following personal values are likely to be acquired by the students? So we have here the personal values. A. Cultural heritage. B. Understanding and empathy. C. Learning content area knowledge. And D. Moral reasoning. So we must take note that in this question, teacher Hazel wants to ask focused or rather focused on social, political, and moral aspects of the novel. So basically, the correct answer is letter D, moral reason. Okay. So why is that correct answer? In the story, George Orwell's Animal Farm is an allegory for the political consequences of communist and communist dictatorship. So it alludes to the unfair treatment of abusive dictators of the communist government. Okay. Cultural heritage is incorrect because the question does not focus on cultural aspects of the story. Understanding and empathy is also incorrect because it does not ask the students reflections or on how they feel or how they relate to the story. Learning content area knowledge is also incorrect because while these students may acquire a lot of information from these cultural aspects, what's teacher Hazel's focus is the social, political, and moral aspects of the novel. So what is most likely to be acquired are not just learning content area knowledge, but the moral reasoning skills of the students. Finally, we have the last question. In teaching Afro-Asian literature for grade 8 students, what is the best approach to apply in order to help students identify and appreciate distinguishing features of East Asian literature. So we have letter A, information-based approach. Letter B, language-based approach. Letter C, paraphrastic approach. And letter D, stylistic approach. So which do you think is the correct answer? Okay, let us check. Correct answer is stylistic approach. So why is that? Let us discuss first the 3D structures A, B, and C. Information-based approach is considered a teacher-centered approach wherein students, or rather the teacher, requires a lot of background research from the literary text because he or she needs to provide a whole lot of historical, social, cultural context that surrounds the specific literary text that is being used in the lesson. Okay. Language-based approach from the term itself refers to an approach that focuses on the student's analysis on how the language is used or the language works in the literature or the literary text. Paraphrastic approach is an approach wherein students are asked to reword certain lines or produce outputs from their own compositions. Okay. Stylistic approach is the most appropriate or the best answer in this question because it involves literary criticism that will allow the students to scrutinize using literary lenses in order to distinguish and appreciate the features of this Asian literature. So through this approach, the students could use various lenses such as feminism, historicism, new historicism. We have also the post-colonialism, and we have other literary theories that may help students view or analyze and criticize the literature in order to distinguish these features. Okay. Okay, and that would be all for this review. I hope you have learned. Because we have measured your mastery of this course.